Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all very much indeed for coming. It's a great pleasure being involved in this extraordinary enterprise. The Science Gallery itself is amazing, but this Risk Lab is fantastic. I feel, as I said, very privileged and a bit slightly guilty just sort of turning up and there's all these amazing exhibits. So I'm going to talk about the upside of risk. And actually, the graphic, which was just there to sort of give you something to look at, actually is a bit of the downside of risk, because there's this poor little man here going to be struck. Actually, he's been hit already. Oh, cool. I didn't know he was going to get hit. Let's put him in the middle. Let's give his life a little bit of sparkle and see how he gets on there. Now, it won't last long. You never shelter under trees in lightning storms, never hide in the middle of a binomial distribution, and a lightning storm is high-risk stuff. Yeah, exactly. So this is supposed to illustrate, this is a sort of electronic Galton machine. What happens when you've got lots of random events? In fact, each of these branches, there's 20 branches, and each one is 50-50. So it's a bit like flipping a coin 20 times. If you get no heads, you end up there. If you get 20 heads, you end up there. So the chance of ending up there is about chance of getting 20 heads in a row, which is a half times a half times a half times a half times a half, 20 times, about 1 in a million. As you're not a schools audience, if I was you're a schools audience, I'd be picking on you and saying, what's the probability? But I won't do that, I won't do that. So that's a 1 in a million chance of him getting hit if he stands there. If we wait long enough, it'll happen. But what happens is that each of these lightning strikes is completely unpredictable, but what we're seeing is a pattern of chance. Over a number of events, we can see these patterns just building up. And we get a lovely binomial distribution. It's going to start looking like a normal distribution. We wait long enough, and we get this lovely regular shape building up. So these random events, in fact, have this enormous predictability when taken on the whole. And that's the kind of thing I'm going to show some examples of this evening, but also, are present in the lab. Okay, so what am I going to talk about? Upside of risk. Because, risk is normally all about misery and disaster and health and safety and things like that. So actually, I will have a bit of that. I will have a bit of misery and disaster, I'm afraid. But just a bit of background. I work in Cambridge. I'm actually funded by Winton Capital Management, a hedge fund, who are one of the funders of this exhibition as well. And we've even called our website Understanding Uncertainty, kept the word risk out of it, to get the fact that, it's to do with uncertainty, the fact of not knowing what's going to happen. So we've got a website that does a lot of stuff, and plug for the book. The book is not just about danger, it's also got the sort of stuff I'm talking about today. In fact, a lot of the things I'm talking about are in the book. So I feel a bit embarrassed plugging a book, but never mind. I've never had one like this before, so please forgive me. So as I said, risk is usually about doom, gloom, and terrible things are going to happen. I think that's my Twitter account going off. It's going to be annoying. But really, it's just about when things may turn out well or not so well. We don't know what will happen. Oh, sorry. This is really embarrassing. Do you mind if I turn off Twitter? Because otherwise, this is going to get really annoying. Oops, Stace. Come on. It's going to peep at me continually. Right, now, shut up. Go away. Right, okay. Nah, don't you peep. Things might turn out well or not so well. So I was looking through the local papers today. If you bought a tracker mortgage, things have turned out rather well. And if you bought a variable rate mortgage, things have not turned out very well at all. I won't ask what people have got, but people who bought the variable rate are now paying for the people who got the trackers. So you make a decision, might be the right or the wrong one, up or down side. And another thing that was in the paper today I thought was really interesting, which is essentially about the upside of risk. It was about kids having adventures, about boldness in childhood, about how not coddling children too much, not overprotecting them, because otherwise this is not going to be good for their development. So I really like that article. I think that's really cool. And you could say that a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about has got that sort of flavor of boldness and going for it. Now, I did my own little bit of going for it. Does anyone recognize this? Do you get this stupid program here? Winter Wipeout. Yeah. That was my little bit of boldness. As I got older, I've got a bit bolder, I think. I used to be very cautious and think, but now I just thought, oh, well, who cares, really? So I did this. So, and if you're a schools audience, I'd show you some clips of me on this program. But as you're not a schools audience, I'm going to show you anyway. Okay. So this is just to show what a little bit of boldness does. I'll just show you bits of it. But
wow!
This was the Winter Wipeout.
The total wipeout course. It's It's beautiful.
You
Look,
fly to
down
Argentina
there.
to
Is
do
that
this.
20 ordinary everyday Brits, including a railway engineer, a poker player, and a penguin keeper I can see waving?
There's me. I
Now,
mean, really.
this is Professor David Spiegelhalter, OBE, and he's a professor of risk.
What this means is
did all
that
the
if I'm going to
stats.
qualify, I've just got to get below 3 minutes.
Yeah, right. Below 3 minutes is the key, and off goes the professor towards the nasty snowballs. Yes, yes. Uh-oh. Yeah, I know
Because
what you did
she's
there.
Irish
You
as
followed
well.
the y-axis when you should have followed the X. On to Granny's house now, a risky destination.
All right, Professor Spiegelhalter.
Oh! Yeah, he could still be doing this in under 3 minutes. All he has to do is clear both logs. Ow! Big ow!
The gentleman doth profess too much.
Despite that risky performance, Professor David Spiegelhalter, OBE, climbs to the finish in 3 minutes 17, just shy of his target.
Right, so that was the qualifier. And the first 12 of the 20 go through into the next round. The winner of the 20 gets 10,000 quid, and I got through. I was 10th, in fact, on the qualifier. And if you're really good and not rude, I might show you what happened in the last bit. That was an example of, I suppose, of trying to be a bit bolder than normal. Now, we'll come back to that later. Now, I'm in the maths department, so I'm really interested in the way that mathematics and chance and probability theory interact with this feeling of uncertainty, of making decisions when we don't know what will happen. Maybe things will turn out well, maybe they don't turn out badly. So that's what I'm interested in education. But people have trouble with numbers, particularly numbers around chance. People have trouble with numbers, full stop. I mean, here's a nice quote, I think, which illustrates that certainly the headline writer in particular is really struggling. And it's actually often the headline writers who are these sub-editors. This is a great one. It was in 2 weeks ago in the English newspapers. 1/3 of bikers are killed on Kent roads. I mean, I knew motorcycling was dangerous, but that's ridiculous. So, and the story says motorcyclists make up 35% of people killed or seriously injured. And the headline writer thought that meant 1/3 of bikers were killed. So, no, that's not right. Actually, someone grabbed that quick because they did change it to the right headline a little bit later. But it just shows that headline writer had absolutely no idea. The complete lack of numeracy, not aware of what you put in the numerator or the denominator to describe a risk. And there's a lot of those sort of things around. This is just, I'm going to show quite a lot of stuff of headlines and stories because a lot of the things I love to try to teach, or what I love to teach students to do, school students to do more, is taking apart stories in the news. And adults could do with it as well. This sort of story, in the Daily Express, as usual, in February 2012, drug to cure Alzheimer's. Oh, that's a good headline, except it doesn't actually resemble the truth because this was carried out on mice. And you think, oh, well, God, there's another of those things done on mice and it's going to cure Alzheimer's. And that was in February. And then in April, we get another drug to halt Alzheimer's. That's great. Same paper, same story, essentially, just a couple of months later. And I thought, great, is this going to be it? And then you look down the bottom, nope, 6-month-old mice again. So, we've got to take apart these risk stories to see what they really mean. And I find that graphics can often help with the explanation. And so I'm going to talk a lot about the use of graphics. This is one of my favorite graphics. This is just to show how old statistical graphics are. This is a map of bastardy in England and Wales in 1842. I come from East Anglia. I work in East Anglia, and we can see that Norfolk actually heads the league table for bastardy in 1842, which, when I give this talk locally, I always just add, well, no change there. But that's just to irritate people. But then the graphics can be a bit misleading. Here's a pie chart from Fox News that even when I'm talking to 12-year-old kids, they realize that is not a great pie chart. But this is Fox News. You can give an entire talk just from Fox News graphics. They are so awful. Okay, so how can we use graphics, though, to try to read the risk stories in the news and perhaps interpret them better? So here's another risk story, Daily Express. Oh, there's always the Daily Express. Daily fry-up boosts cancer risk by 20%. So if you eat a bacon sandwich every day, I actually ate one today, which is very nice indeed, I must say, but it raises the chance of pancreatic cancer by almost a fifth, according to a new study. Let's believe the study for a moment, the epidemiology. What does that mean? What does it mean to us? Well, pancreatic cancer is a horrible disease. Fortunately, only 1 in 80 people get it in their lifetime. So likely just, one of us might get it, one or two might get it in our lifetime. So that is a terrible thing. But eating the bacon sandwich every day increases that risk by 20%. Now, if you try to do, what's a 20% increase from 1 in 80, that is difficult. That is a difficult calculation to do. And especially for, for students, school students, that's very difficult. So the way to do it is to use a visualization of something that thinks in terms of frequencies. This is what's being shown in risk communication again and again. We need to always think in terms of frequencies. So this is 400 people sitting down to have, like I'm sure you all did, to have a nice, worthy, smug, healthy breakfast of your muesli and yogurt and all that muck. And 5 of you, if you eat that every morning, sadly, 5 of you, 1 in 80, will get pancreatic cancer during your lifetime. Now, consider 400 other people who sit down and stuff their gob with that every morning, a great big greasy bacon sarnie, every day of their lives, and that's how many who get pancreatic cancer. Did you notice the change there? Look, that's the 20% increase. So all of these people stuffing their faces with that every day of their lives, and that's the actual impact, that one person, which is very sad, because that person will never know whether it's because of the bacon sandwich. I mean, 399 other people ate that without any effect at all on their pancreatic cancer risk. So this actually puts risks perhaps in more perspective. And it's been shown in numerous studies that this kind of representation can be very useful for deconstructing risk stories. Now, one of the things I'm working on at the moment, which is to do with, in a sense, the upside of risk, or the possible downside of risk, is breast cancer screening. So this is the leaflets from the current IRIS screening program, which I was looking at today. The UK leaflets are just in the process of being redesigned, and I'm on the team, one of the team redesigning them. Now, and it's based on the UK ones, because there's been such controversy in the UK about breast screening with strong pros and strong against, a lot of argument. And so the sort of ideology behind the new leaflets is that benefits and harms of screening are going to be uniformly reported. So the upsides and the downsides of an action like going for screening will be reported in a balanced way. That's the ethos that's going into it. And they're using a review that was in the medical journal The Lancet, done recently. It had to be done by scientists who knew nothing about breast screening. Anyone who worked in breast screening, the camps were so polarized that people who did the review couldn't have worked in breast screening before. And they did this review and came up with some estimated numbers. And as I said, another term for what the leaflets are trying to do is to have this idea of shared care or informed choice. That's the ethos. And that's really, I think, what a lot of what I'm talking about today is about openness and transparency, about the benefits and harms of activities. New leaflets will present the pros and cons. Amazingly, the new leaflets will not make a recommendation that women go for screening, which is unusual and quite bold, and it'll be interesting to see what effect it has on people. We don't quite know. So that's a really bold thing. So, and I was on an organizer, we found all sorts of different ways to present this information, and actually went to a citizens' jury of 25 women and showed them all these different ways, and they said what they liked best and things like that. And it turns out that, again, this idea of natural frequencies, Gert Gigerenzer, a German psychologist, has been pushing this for ages, is really the most attractive way to do it, to present this information. So, for example, here's a graphic called a frequency tree that shows how the sort of information might be presented. And so here we've got 200 women between 50 and 70 who go for screening. Well, out of those women going for screening in the UK it's every 3 years between 50 and 70, and Ireland is every 2 years between 50 and 65, I believe. But we'd expect over that period that 15 will develop breast cancer. And of those, 12 will be treated and survive. It's a fantastic survival rate in breast cancer treatment now, really high. But sadly, 3 will die early from their breast cancer. Now, if 200 women do not go for screening, the same number will develop breast cancer, because breast cancer screening does not prevent breast cancer, as opposed to cervix and bowel cancer screening, which do. 8 will be treated and survive, and 4 will sadly die early from their breast cancer. There's 1 extra early death in the 200 women who don't go for screening. However, we have these 3 people who are actually unaffected by, who if they don't go for screening, will never know that they had breast cancer. It'll be subclinical, they'll never be bothered by the disease, they'll die of something else. So those people will never, if they don't go for screening, will never know at all. So that is considered as a sort of harm of screening. It's called overtreatment or overdiagnosis. And that's kind of information that's going to be presented to women. I'll show you one way in which it's going to be presented in a moment. There's all sorts of ways to package that. That's one way. We could package it in all sorts of ways that would make the actually quite dramatic. For example, we could say that of 15 women who develop breast cancer, we could say, now let me see if I can get this right, that 3 are treated, 3 of them, that's 20%, are treated completely unnecessarily. So screening means that 20% of women treated for breast cancer is unnecessary, which is quite high. So we can develop it like that. Another way we could say it is that of the 12 women who go for screening, their breast cancer is found, they get treated and they survive, and who will tend to think of themselves as survivors whose lives were saved by the breast cancer screening, actually only 1 of them had their life saved by the breast cancer screening. So actually, of women who are breast cancer survivors, fortunately, and who went for screening, actually only less than 92% or other would have been still alive even if they hadn't gone for screening. Now you put it in those language and the whole story changes a lot. That language is not going to be used in the screening. Let me just show you something. I've been involved in one of the breast cancer charities. This is, let's stop that. One of the big breast cancer charities, Breakthrough Breast Cancer UK, and let me just show you a video that they've produced, a bit of a video, which I hope I can get to work.
Imagine 200 women who don't attend breast screening. Between the ages of 50 and 70, about 12 of these women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. Usually they will first notice symptoms themselves and visit their doctor, who will refer them for further tests. Let's look at what happens to these 12 women in more detail. About 8 of these women will receive treatment and survive their disease. Their breast cancer would have caused symptoms, illness or death if left untreated. The other 4 will also receive treatment, but despite this treatment their breast cancer will progress and they will die from the disease before they're 80. Now let's look at what happens if you do go for breast screening from age 50 to 70. Imagine 200 women who do go for breast screening. Between the ages of 50 and 70, about 15 of these women would be diagnosed with breast cancer. This will usually be picked up on a mammogram before the cancer can be seen or felt. Let's look at what happens to these 15 women in more detail. About 12 will receive treatment and survive their disease. Most of these women's breast cancers would have caused further symptoms, illness or death if left untreated. The other 3 will also receive treatment, but despite this treatment their breast cancer will still progress and they will die from the disease before they are 80. Let's now compare the 2 groups to see the differences. In the group that attend breast screening, 1 fewer woman dies. That's 1 more life saved for every 200 women who attend breast screening from age 50 to 70.
Okay, so I think you see how that is developing, how that story develops. And this is really quite a bold and interesting attempt to communicate this information using this transparent way. So those are the benefits that you see, that's the upside of risk. These are showing the benefits in terms of extra lives saved. You're trying to do it in a clear and transparent way. It's going to be very interesting to see what the effect of these tools are on people. Okay, so I showed that video. We in fact now are taking these ideas and trying to put them into school teaching about probability. We've got this course called Great Expectations, which is all trying to teach probability through the idea of what would you expect to happen in 100 cases like this, in 200 cases like this. Using these probability trees, using actually frequency trees of the kind that were drawn up for the breast cancer screening. I actually personally believe that this is the way that probability should be taught in schools and in universities as well. You know, it's a really powerful tool. It's been shown that you can get people to understand things using these kind of tools. Okay, what about this? This is chance again. There's again in the paper today, lovely lottery winner. 2nd of May, won 3.5 million euros. So I thought, okay, I'm going to splash out. I'm a risk taker. I walk on the wild side. I'm going to buy a lottery ticket. And then I think, well, what lottery ticket should I buy? Well, I ought to go and get some advice. So you go onto a lottery website, and it tells you that I can use technical thought, note that, to choose your numbers and increase your chance of choosing the lucky numbers. Wow, isn't maths wonderful? And helped you, these will teach you, show you the trends and how to make an informed choice about your numbers. Well, I believe in informed choice, like in breast cancer screening. So I want an informed choice about buying what tickets to, what numbers to choose in the Irish lottery. So I can look at the numbers that have come up most. 42 is in the lead. Since Ireland went over to a 6:45 game in 2006, it's come up 111 times. Really cool number, 42. Whereas 43 is the most rubbish number on earth. It's only come up 68 times. So, you know, about, so 43, hang on, what are we here? Yeah, the 12 has come up about half as much again as the lowest number. Huge variability in how often they've come up. So we learn about what numbers are hot, et cetera, et cetera. And so I thought, I won't take any notice of this. So these are my lottery tickets for the draw tomorrow. You have to buy 2 at once. I didn't realize you have to pay €3 to get 2 loads. So I bought 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so we'll see if we win. If 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comes up, I think people will be quite amazed. But it's got as much chance as any other number come up, and certainly as much chance as 43 and 12 is coming up, just because it's come up 111 times. But there's things out there trying to tell you that there's flogging you computer programs to help you to choose your numbers. So this one, yeah, finally here is software that help you win the lottery. I love this. If you want to play according to a realistic algorithm and hard facts, instead of using a superstitious system, you should try this program. For heaven's sake, you know, if anything's superstition, it's this. Okay, but you can go rant on this till you're blue in the face. What about, you know, can we actually show the lottery is random? Well, first of all, what's the chance of winning it, in fact? You've got to think of it, it's a 6:45 lottery. You've got 40, usually I do this with a great bag of balls. You've got 45 balls in there. All the 6 have to be the ones you chose, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the chance of picking the first one, that has to be one of the winners. So 6 over 40, there's 45 balls in there. There's 6 winners, I have to choose that one. And then the next time, there's 44 balls left in there. Only 5 of them winners, I have to choose that one first. Next one is 4 out of 43. You can see the pattern. 3 out of 42, 2 out of 41, and the last one, there's 40 balls in there, only one of them's a winner. I have to choose that one, and it works out as 1 over 8 million. So there's 1 over 8 million chance of actually winning the jackpot, which is guaranteed to be at least 2 million euros. Chance of winning, I thought it was really mean. There's only a 1 in 45 chance of getting 3 balls, and you only get €5 for 3 balls. I don't think this is a very good deal. Years of research has shown it's not such a great deal. So, but we have looked at whether the Irish lottery really is random. So let's just check whether we can say whether it's random. So what we did was look at the history of the Irish lottery. So this started in 2006, the 6:45 game. So here are the balls. These are the draws. This is now November 2006. Maybe you remember. And these were the numbers coming up. And you can see already, so you know, one of them's in the lead here, and some haven't come up at all. These are pathetic numbers, hardly worth it. Come on, get a grip. So, and we can actually show a histogram showing this is the distribution. So some of this number haven't come up at all yet. Oh, look, oh, wow, look at this. This is about 39 or 39 or something. Way in the, what a great number, 39. And, but we can speed this up to show that eventually some start getting in the lead and everything like that. And, but we've got a sort of league table where some numbers, there's poor old 8 there or 7, pathetic number. They always come up. So But actually, we can start doing we can use a bit of theory to work out what sort of spread would we expect in this league table of draws by chance alone. And again, the good old binomial distribution crops up, tells us what to do. And this is the shape, the theoretical distribution that we'd expect these numbers to follow if it was all just chance. And guess what? It follows it beautifully. It's almost by magic. It's forcing itself around this theoretical distribution. It doesn't mean that there's any predictability just because something hasn't come up for our... No, who have we got? Oh, is 30... No, 12... Oh, hang on, what's the good one? 12 is a good one, isn't it? Oh, yeah, there it is. There it is, 12. Oh, going into the lead now. So 12's up there, pretty good. There's rotten old 43, who wants to bother with that? Stupid old number. But the distribution follows exactly what we'd expect by chance. So all this stuff in this website is nonsense. And it makes no difference at all. And the point is that getting a lottery number that hasn't come up for a while is a very is very gripping in terms of a narrative. If we look at gaps, we can look on the website and find out that 30, what hasn't come up for? 35 hasn't come up for ages. It hasn't come up since February. Oh, it must be due. Or is that 36? 35. 35 must be due. This is the gambler's fallacy. And out there on the roulette table, we're trying to show to students and others what a fallacy this is. It's one of the most difficult psychological fallacies. I was playing on that thing yesterday. Red came up 4 times in a row, so I shift all my chips to black, because black must be due. And it is so difficult not to follow that fallacy. I know it. I've been studying this stuff for years, and yet I just cannot convince myself that I should change my bet. There's no point in changing your bet. These gaps are complete nonsense. Actually, but the gaps, we've done another one on gaps. Now, this is quite fun. What this is a similar animation, but instead of building up to show off how often the numbers come, when a number appears, this goes back to 0. So that means the length of this bar is the number of draws since a number appeared. So it's the complete opposite of the previous one. So this shows when things things didn't happen for a while. And so we can speed this up and see what happens, and some numbers start, okay, here we go. Oh, look, those, some lasted ages. And we can show a histogram. This is the, slow it down a bit. Okay, oop, come on, slow it down. Oh, I can't slow it down. Yes, I can. Yeah, okay. So this is the, shows that some numbers, haven't come up. Something here hasn't come up for 31 draws, 25, something hasn't come up for 31 draws. So we get this long tail like this, but we can put the theoretical distribution on that, which is a geometric distribution. It's a waiting time distribution, showing how long since things appeared, and it's got a very long tail. And that's why some of these things just, take a long time to, some of the, look, 30, 40, 40, ages. The longest one was 14, that went for 57 draws without 14 being drawn in 2008. I mean, maybe they forgot to put it in. But we'll pretend not. 14 didn't come out for 57 draws. But we would expect something like that to happen, something that long. We do occasionally get these long gaps. So again, the gap, there's no information at all. No matter what psychologically, we seem to be being told what... our psychology is so misleading in this situation. But maybe we could do some maths and try to stop ourselves thinking that way. Because, as I said, randomness has got a pattern. We should be able to spot randomness, but randomness doesn't always have the pattern that we expect it to follow. And one of the exhibits out there, one which I prepared with Mike Pearson, is something about the patterns of randomness. And what we've done, those aren't the actual ones, but we've produced some graphics like that. So here's a little test. Quickly, I should just flash it up. No, okay, what I'm going to do is put that up again. 3 of those are completely random, and 1 of them is very non-random. And you've got a very quick, I should just give you 3 seconds or 4 seconds to, can you just see the one that isn't random? 3 of those are random, 1 of them's very non-random. It's highly structured. And the answer is, which one is the non-random one? Top right, yeah. Why do you think it's top right? Sorry? They're nothing next to each other, is the usual thing. Yeah, these have all got, because randomness clusters. You get lumps, you get these blocks of color coming up. Look, there's 4 greens in the thing there. Nothing like that. That is beautifully evenly spread. Randomness does not look evenly spread. Now, I mean, this is the actual one that's out there on the wall, and it's really interesting. I mean, to see whether someone yesterday looked at that. I said, well, what pattern has that got? And he looked at it, and what did he say? Anyone see what pattern it's got? Does it remind anyone of a particular kind of puzzle? No, it's not a Rubik's Cube. No, actually, I don't think so, but you're right. It does look a bit like a Rubik's Cube. You ever see a particular type of number puzzle that people do? Sorry? Sudoku. It's a Sudoku. And one guy who's obsessed with Sudokus looked at it, that's a Sudoku pattern. Because it is. That's it. It's a Sudoku solution. But it's not just any old Sudoku solution. This is the most unique Sudoku solution you can find. It is a staggering Sudoku. So that's a Sudoku solution. But it's more than just that, because it's got each color is once in each column, and once in each row, and once in each block. But look at where the color is in each block. So yellow is in the bottom left there, in the middle there, top right there, bottom there. Each color appears once and once only in every position in each block. There's no repeats, nothing there. There's no time when a color is in the bottom left-hand corner twice. So that's an extra bit of symmetry. There's another bit of symmetry. Anybody, any other patterns? Anyone spots? There's more pattern. This has got more pattern, more structure in it than you can ever think possible. Anything? You look at the diagonals. Diagonals, once and once only. But also, this is a quite difficult to spot. The split rows, like look, that bit, that 3, and that 3, they're all different. The split columns. So I took that column, that column, and that column. They're all different as well. This is known as a totally symmetric Sudoku. It obeys all the symmetries that can be applied on this. And it's been shown some mathematicians at Queen Mary College, after about 30 pages of maths, proved there's only 2 possible solutions to this. This is one of them. So I think it's a beautiful pattern. It's quite nice. So it's got so much structure. It's so totally non-random. Okay, so let's go on to another thing. This is all about, I've talked a lot about chance. I'm fascinated by chance. And the upside of risk, and taking chances and seeing what happened. And the usual way, I say that's £1, but I got €1, €2 here. Heads or tails or harp or number or whatever I say, I can say it. So people, when I ask for a school's audience, I'd say, what's the probability this will come up heads? That's the number with a number on it. And they say 50, 50, 50. Okay, so then I flip it, and I say, what's the probability that this is heads? What? Yeah, it's still 50. Bit of a pause, bit of a grudging there, but I can eventually drag out a 50-50. And then I say, okay, what's your probability this is heads? It's 50-50 still. But it's totally changed what that uncertainty is, where it comes from. Beforehand, and there's a word for how that changed. Beforehand, it's called chance or unpredictability. It's called aleatory uncertainty. When we can't know what it's going to be. We assume we can't know. I often use a two-headed coin just to irritate people, but this is a real one, because it's just to show you don't trust anybody. This is a real two coin. So beforehand, it's pure chance, unpredictability. But there's another kind of uncertainty. After I've covered up, there's no chance there at all. It's just what you don't know. And that's known as epistemic uncertainty. It's lack of knowledge or ignorance. So the first is can't know. The second is don't know. Lack of knowledge or ignorance. And I'm fascinated by ignorance. I wish I was professor of ignorance. It's just such a cool topic. And one of the things I believe is that we can put numbers on our ignorance just as we can put numbers on chances of future events. And I want to demonstrate that to you. I'm going to give you a little quiz. And the point is, this quiz is, I don't know if anyone's tried it, but it's on the machines upstairs. And it seems to be quite popular. But it's a quiz in which you have to say your probability that you're right. Your confidence that you're right at your judgment. If you've got a pencil and paper, now is the time to find it. If you haven't, I'm sure you're so good at mental arithmetic you don't need it. But if you have got a pencil and paper, just to keep your running thing of a score. Because what I'm going to do is ask you a set of questions and say whether you think the answer is A or B. No, don't say it out loud, but to yourself say, I think the answer is A. But I don't expect you to know the answers. Some of these are really difficult. But you might have a feeling, I think it's more likely to be A than B. So you've got to think of how confident you are in your answer and put a number on it, 5 to 10. If you haven't got a clue, say 5, because 50-50. If you're absolutely sure, say 10. And then you're going to tell you the right answer, and you've got to score yourself. Now, this is the scoring rule. This is the one that's applied in the computer program upstairs that you get scored by. It's called a quadratic or a Brier scoring rule. It was developed by weather forecasters to evaluate forecasting, probabilistic forecasts in weather. It's a really vicious rule. It's the most unnasty rule, because if you get a question right, 10 out of 10, you get 25 points. If you get it wrong, you lose 75. It penalizes failure more than it rewards success, which I suppose is just like life. Anyway, so it's pretty nasty. So it means what it's supposed to do is encourage you to be honest. So this is the sort of question I'm going to ask. Which happened first in history? Now, don't say if you know the answer. Was Shakespeare born or Trinity College Dublin founded? Which one happened first in history? So maybe you know the answer, in which case you can go just say 10 out of 10. But either write it down, what you think, or just think it in your head. Your answer and how confident you are. Okay, so if you haven't got a clue, just say 5 and you're safe. Okay, have you thought of your answer? And the answer is? A. 30 years or so. Shakespeare in 1564. So, and Trinity College was 1592. So if you said Trinity College, you got off to a really bad start. And you may want to take a few risks to try to catch up, but that is not a good strategy, I tell you. It is the way to doom to try to exaggerate your confidence, to try to get your winnings back again. This is the way to disaster. Okay, so have you got the feeling for it? What are you doing? Good. Okay, which is the shorter drive from Dublin on Google Maps? Shortest route that comes up on Google Maps. Okay, to Galway or to Limerick in kilometers, which is the shortest one. No fiddling on your phones. Which is the shortest one. And maybe you know, maybe you haven't got a clue, maybe you're willing to take a punt. Okay, and the answer is, does anyone know? Anyone actually know? A Limerick. It's unbelievably close. I was going to do, Sligo is 207. You know, why is everything the same distance from Dublin? It's extraordinary. Is it some sort of historical, thing that just everything had to be the same distance from Dublin? So that was a really horrible one, I'm afraid. Again, if you said 10 out of 10 Galway, you're off to a bad start. Right, okay. Who died last? I mean, who was the last to die? There are others. Who outlived whom? W.B. Yeats or James Joyce? So who was the last on Earth? Who went, in other words, who didn't go first? Okay. Anybody know? You're not very confident. Yeah, it's James Joyce. 2 years. 2 years in it. Okay. So again, it said 10 out of 10. I told you these are supposed to be, you're not supposed to know the answers to these. These are tricky. Okay, right. Which is, now this is just, this isn't about Ireland. Which is bigger, Venus or Earth? So it's not a trick, just, in diameter or radius. Which is the biggest planet, Venus or Earth? So this is just for the nerds among you. Are there any? Yep. Okay. Have you got your answer? Do you know? Does anyone know? Yes. Did you know that? That's really cool. That is no, he guessed. God, it's high risk. I tell you, guessing at this game is a high-risk strategy. Guessing 10 out of 10. Right, okay. Nearly finished then. What's the larger county, Galway or Mayo, in terms of square kilometres? Not population. Not population. Just square kilometres, which covers more of the map. Galway or Mayo. Okay. How's your geography? And how confident are you in the answer? Okay, and the answer is? No, Galway. Galway's a bit bigger. Yeah. Yes. Bigger, twice the population and a bit bigger, which is quite interesting. Okay, and finally, which gets the highest viewing figures? EastEnders on RTE1 or Coronation Street on TV3? Last week. Which is the most popular program? Which gets the highest viewing figures? Okay. And anybody got an answer? Who thinks Coronation Street? Yeah, it's Coronation Street. But not by much. Only 300,000 against 350,000. But Coronation Street does get higher viewing figures than... because it's the top TV3 program, so that's the 200,000. Okay, so you get the feeling. Though, I'm not going to, force you to tell me, line you up in order of what scores. Did anyone get loads of points? Like 100 points or something like that? Anyone? No, I didn't think you would. These are quite tricky. Did anyone get above 50? Yes, wow. Okay, very good. Now, okay, these people who got above 50, they either know quite a lot or they're very lucky. But let's pretend, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and actually say they do know something. Now, there's another sort of people. There's people who, was anyone really cautious and said 5, 6, 7s and ended up around 0 with quite a low score? Was anyone quite cautious? Yeah, a few people. Now, those are good people. These are really good people. We did this with someone on the program yesterday, and you thought, these are great, because they're people who know they don't know. So very good. Say they know they don't know. There is a third kind of person, and I wonder if there are any in the audience who got a really low negative score. Okay, who can blow? Well, tell me, sir, what was your score? Oh, wow. Oh, that's really impressive. Oh, wow, that is really staggering. Minus 280. That's really good. Okay, well, that's quite extreme. But people who got a very low score are people who think they know something and don't. Now, these are not people you necessarily want as your financial advisors in the world. And there does tend to be a tendency for it to be, there's some sort of gender linking there that does tend to be more males like that. So the idea of these things is that it's supposed to sort out those kinds of people, the people who know they don't know from the people who don't know they don't know. And that's what the thing upstairs is doing. So I encourage you to go and have a play with it. It's quite fun. Okay, so just to finish off, the other upside of risk I like are coincidences. Because the downside of risk is walking down the road and getting knocked over by a car. The upside of risk is walking down the road and meeting someone that you haven't seen since school. And, wow, isn't that amazing? That's the real upside of risk, are coincidences. I love coincidences. And we study them, and we've got a website. We've got about 3,000, nearly 4,000 now that people have sent in. And they're great. I like these sort of ones. I quite like coincidences you can do the maths on. The ones where people say, oh, I went on holiday and met my friend in Mallorca or something like that. And there's some lovely ones people have sent in where, a guy was on holiday in the Pyrenees. He wrote a postcard to his friend back home. And on the way to post it, he met his friend coming the other way. So he just gave him the postcard. No idea he was going to be there, which is lovely. But these are quite nice. 3 children born on the same day. This is one where there are 3 kids, and they're all got the same birthday. They're all born on January the 29th. So you have one child, and the second one comes along, born on the birthday. Then you're having this birthday party for 2 kids, and another one comes along, like that. So that's what happened to Ruby. She popped up on the birthday of the others. Apparently she was a bit of a surprise. But never mind. Let's assume that these people are not engaging in unbelievably careful family planning. And this is just chance. And a baby is equally likely to be born on any day of the year. 1 in 365 chance of any day of the year. Now, it's quite easy to think, what's the chance of that happening? Many people would say that it's the chances that 1 over 10365 times 1 over 365 times 1 over 365, because all these events have got to happen. And they get 73 million. And that's what, or whatever, and that's what newspapers say, and they get it wrong. Because in fact, it's only 1 over 365 times 1 over 365. Because the first one, Robin, could be born on any day at all. He doesn't contribute to the coincidence. It's only the other 2 who feature in the coincidence. So if I had said, what's the chance of 3 children all being born on January the 29th, it'd be another matter. But the chance of them all being born on the same day, it's only the 2 others, it's only Rebecca and Ruby who contributed to it. And that's about 1 in 135,000. So it's still quite rare. Turns out, though, that it's very surprising for them, and they got themselves on the news. It's not actually very surprising to hear about. In fact, it's a bit of a yawn. I think we've had 4 sent into our website of people who share a birthday with 2 siblings. The point is, just there's 1 million families in the UK with 3 children under 18, so that means that you'd expect at least 8 of them, or around 8 of them, to have their 3 kids all born on the same day, just by chance. And it happens. Once you start noticing it, then here it comes. Here's the Daily Mail. Another 3 children all born on the same day. Look at this. What are the odds? 48 million to 1. No, they're not. They got it wrong. You can just guarantee whenever there's a number in the news like that, they will get it wrong. They got it wrong. Okay. So there's another family. But I love these stories because you can put the probabilities on them. So the coincidences, the birthday one we were playing yesterday at the opening was just to say we all had our birthdays on, and if you found someone with the same birthday, you could go up and get a cupcake. Amazing. Got a great list of Blackboard. There were 4 people all with the same birthday. And the point is that what this is using is what's called the birthday paradox. This amazing fact that you need 23 people, there's a 50-50 chance that 2 of them will have the same birthday. And if you've got 35 people in a room, there's an 81% chance that 2 have got the same birthday. 80 people. So, it's certain that 2 of us have got the same birthday in this room. I can't even be bothered to do it, because it's absolutely certain. So, it is. I'll try to do something a bit more impressive, though, in a moment. I'll do a trick. Now, why does this happen? This is very unintuitive, that these coincidences happen so often. But you've got to imagine, say these 35 people in a line, and the first birthday can be anything, and the second birthday must be different from the first, and that's probability 300. So it's very unlikely that those 2 people will have the same birthday. So the probability that the second one's different, 0.997. The probability of the third one, it's got to be different from both the previous 2. So the chance of that is 0.995. Still very big probability. But it goes on and goes on and goes on. And by the time you do it 35 times, the chance that the 35th one is different from the previous 34 is 0.907. Okay, so that's still quite high. But the point is, all of these things got to happen. And so you've got to multiply these probabilities together. And by the time you multiply together 35 numbers, or 34 numbers, each of them quite, less than 1, you end up with a very small number, like 0.19. Okay, so I'll try a little trick in a moment. Actually, 35 people. Should we do 30? Have we got time to do the audience? Yeah, can we do the audience? Actually, what I might do is another one. There's a useful formula. If you want to play a trick on a group of people, if you want to make some money, here's the way to do it. You work out some event that's got a probability 1 over k of any 2 people being the same. And it could be a birthday, or it could be choosing a number, or something like that. So the chance is 1 over k. Now, same birthday, that would be a 1 over 365 chance. There's a very simple formula. Just remember this. You need 1.2 times the square root of k, the number of people, for there to be a 50% chance of a match. That's where the 23 comes from. 1.2 times the square root of 365 is 20. It's approximate, but it's very accurate, 23. And to get a 95% match, you just need twice that many. So you need 46 people. And so that's what you need. So I know that I did 2.5 times the square root of 365. 46, if I got 46 people, there's 95% chance that 2 of them have got the same birthday. It's really good. So I can do this on any group of people, on any rule. So for example, let's take the front 2 rows of these things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Right, 17 people. I've got 17 people. Now, I want 2.4 times the square root of k to equal 17. Oh, my goodness. Come on, someone solve that for k. Someone's clever. 17 divided by 2.4 is about 7. 7 is square root of, so k is 50. So I want a 1 in 50 chance of 2 things matching. 1 in 50 is 50th of the year is 50th of the year is a week. Oh yeah, okay. So what I want to do then is for the 2 people. In the front 2 rows, there will be 2 people whose birthday is within 4 days of each other. Do you think so? There'll be a birthday within 4 days of each other in the front 2 rows. Now, I've got to... Okay, can we test it? Okay, right. In the front 2 rows, if you hear something within 4 days of your birthday, could you say? Can I ask what your birthday is? 22nd of February? 26th of August?
27th.
What was yours? 22nd. Oh, close. Oh, that's not fair. Oh, no. Right, okay.
10th of November.
10th of November.
19th of May.
19th of May.
17th of January.
29th of June.
21st of June.
Oh. 20th of October.
15th of December.
Yes. What was yours? Hey! Yay! Thank you all. Right, I'll be €1 each you owe me, that's it. Okay, that's the way to make money off people. because they think you can't do it. But do it for 95%, and then you can. So just remember that 2.4 times the square root of k, and you can do it. Okay. So that's the way to make money. So yeah. So just to finish, I said I love these numbers in the news because they always get them wrong. This is a great story in the English Times about someone bought a box of eggs and cracked them open. They all had double yolks, and the man from the Egg Council, of course, which apparently there's an egg council, said, oh, there's only one in 1,000 eggs are double yolked. So they did some sums and said, oh, well, there's 6 eggs, all to be double yolked. Must be 1 in 1,000 times 1 in 1,000 times 1 in 1,000. Oh, my God, that's a million. It's not even got a name, a million. You know, and that was the chance of it's happening. What's wrong with this? That is the worst. It is so wrong. It's not even a trillion anymore. I mean, that's for a start. But it's a million. I mean, we, in the UK, I think they eat 12 billion eggs a year, but you'd still have to wait 500 million years for this event. You know, you're back well on the way to the start of the universe before this would happen. This can't possibly be the probability. And it's so wrong. Apparently, there's not that many eggs are double yolked, more than eggs are double yolked, and that's not how you spell yolked. Sorry, I just noticed. and eggs tend to go together if they come from the same clutch. Double-yolked eggs are not independent, so we could teach independence. But it's actually wronger than that, because the next time I went into a shop, I bought a box of 6 eggs, and they all had double yolks. There they all are. I'm about to drink that with a glass of wine to try to prevent the most terrible heart attack. Anyway, so how did that happen? Is that a 1 in a million chance? No, it's because I went to my local Waitrose and bought a box of double-yolked eggs. You know, and apparently, egg sorting things, they sort the double yolks by holding them up to the light, and if they've run out of boxes like that, they just stick them in another box. So there's no chance at all. So it's all nonsense. Okay. So just to finish off, would you like to see how I ended up getting on Winter? Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. My supporters, I'm going to rely on someone in the audience to say it. If everyone said no, it'd be a real pain. So then we went on. So then they got this thing called, let's go on to 2 minutes. Yeah, this is this thing called the ski lift, where you have to hold onto this thing.
Arms which get raised up as the game goes on.
And the arms go, and they try to knock you off.
We'll go through to the next round.
Oh, Professor Spiegelhalter.
I don't stand a chance. All making light work of those ski poles so far. There's Professor Spiegelhalter OBE, Rob Boy. Those poles are getting higher now. There's John. And John again. And James.
The final 5 go through. 5 have been knocked off already.
Not letting go.
No. There's Mel. Oh no, Mel!
Whoa! Mel!
Hence now, the next 2 to 4 will be out of the competition.
Yeah, final 7.
Suspicious Helen. Professor Spiegelhalter OBE. Oh! Just presenting himself to that arm.
No.
Undignified. So Professor Spiegelhalter OBE is the next victim of this first ski lift.
Yeah, I was robbed. I could have made it. I could have got the 10,000 quid. But at least I went for it. And that's the lesson of today's talk. Thank you very much indeed. I'm very happy to take some questions if people don't mind hanging on a bit more. Yes, what's that? Oh, did you? Oh, on that one? Yeah. Well, I love this program. I really did, and I liked it before I applied to go on it. But it's quite terrifying going in for the auditions because you've got 1 minute to audition and say why you should be on the program. So I said, I'm a professor from the University of Cambridge, and I have a professional obligation to tackle those big red balls. And they got on. Yes.
Thanks. I was just curious when you were talking about with the breast screening,
yeah.
How obviously you got the women who may be treated but wouldn't get the breast cancer.
Well, they would get it but not notice it.
Yeah. But I'm just curious, because obviously you've got women who will be screened, something will be noticed, and then have the stress and anxiety of that, and then it turned out to be nothing. And I'm just wondering whether that's actually factored into.
Oh, there's another part of that. The graphics. There's another graphic for the essentially the false positive mammograms, which will be so many % each time will be called back. Only a small percentage of which will actually have breast cancer. So that the sort of anxiety surrounding the mammogram is a separate part of the explanation procedure. So that's obviously in there as well. Yeah.
What about the repeat screening? If you are clear the first time, and then the second time, what's the outcome then, and the third time, and so on?
I mean, that's really the trouble with this, because in a way we're just looking at here's 200 sort of average people. These are not identified. They don't have all the individual characteristics of people. Nobody will follow exactly these chances, in fact, because they'll have their own pathway. But these are the judgment about if you just take 200 people at random. With all their variability, this is what you would expect to happen in these cases. Now, not exactly that will happen, of course, in particular cases, because, So there's a mixture of judgment and there's a lot of statistics, but they are still only judgment about these things.
It would seem as if the frequency of you being rechecked, once you've been cleared, having it occur in that 2-year period is, probably, more unlikely if you were clear the first time.
Absolutely. Each individual will not just carry on like this all the way through, because some people will become, will have higher risk, and some people will be identified as lower risk as well. But these are just assuming sort of averaging over everybody. This is what you'd expect to happen to 200 people.
Okay, thank you.
I'm interested to know how much of a problem you think this is in misjudgments when it comes to public policy. And to take something at random like nuclear power, which is regarded by people in this country with ferocious paranoia, but which seems to me to be relatively low risk. Could you comment on that?
I mean, I do a whole sort of spiel on the essentially the psychology of what people are anxious about. There's well-known factors that increase anxiety, sort of fright factors, and nuclear power ticks a lot of the boxes because people feel just as GM foods often do as well, because people feel that this is something that's not properly in control. It's a sort of dread thing, the idea of radiation, what it might do to people, especially vulnerable people. There's a feeling that of lack of trust in the authority, and trust is absolutely vital in these things, because if there's got lack of trust, it increases your feeling of risk, and a feeling of sort of the unnaturalness of it. People have a strong desire for things just not being natural. And so there are very strong psychological aspects of this, which are very difficult to change. I mean, and I'm not saying that people are stupid, because I'm exactly the same. The strong sort of cultural backgrounds, cultural beliefs, based very much on what people around you are feeling, almost what tribe you are a member of, influence your opinions very strongly. And just presenting information to people actually rarely will change their opinion. Really, you have to get much deeper than that into sort of changing the whole way in which a group of people, society, are thinking. At the same time, while acknowledging those very important psychological aspects, which are explored in the risk lab very carefully, I also believe, and many people do, that there's still, in a way, duty to try to provide the risk information in as transparent and unbiased a way as possible, whether they might ignore it or not. So, for example, on energy sources, I think it's really important that we do reflect on the actual risks, the enormous risks and damage caused by fossil fuels, both in because of the coal mining and then the pollution. The number of people die because of pollution from fossil fuel power stations, etc., etc. So, I think it's very important those things are presented, but we can't think that somehow people will say, right, now I realise I will change my mind. It doesn't happen like that.
Just make the follow-up observation that, I mean, you're talking about teaching children at a very young age relatively to grasp this. I mean, how likely is this project to be successful? Because public perceptions, I mean, we talked about nuclear power, but people remember Andrew Wakefield and the panic over MMR and things like this.
I didn't even start.
People actually end up
don't get me on
harming
the
themselves because of the failure to understand these things.
Exactly, and the utter predictability of what's going on in the UK at the moment with the measles outbreaks is shocking, really, and it's completely predictable. And that, again, was definitely fueled by the media, but it was based a lot of it on lack of trust, of suspicion, of authority. People felt this was being imposed upon them and everything. So, but in that case, hugely fueled by misinformation from the media as well. So, I think information is important, and that if, in a way, you can change the perspective on things, I think, by, in a way, having some sympathy for how people feel about it, engaging with it, but at the same time, I think, robustly trying to counter it. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Professor, thanks for a great talk. Just the little experiment you brought us through there, my results were fairly predictable when I look back on them, but not beforehand.
Yeah.
Is there evidence of changing behaviours if you expose people continually to that? That they...
Yep. You can train people. These devices are used for training intelligence analysts, weather forecasters, anyone who's got to give a probabilistic prediction. Not for when you want, and bookies, this is to train people to give good odds, to be able to assess, not to be overconfident. That scoring rule is designed, it's called a proper scoring rule, to encourage honesty. Because if you exaggerate your actual what's reasonable to believe, you get absolutely hammered by it. And so it's encouraged. That's why it's so vicious. It's based on a squared loss penalty, and it's to encourage honesty. And people do change that. You start playing with these things a bit, and you soon start getting calibrated. On the experiment, we show your calibration curve. And I mean, Dylan Evans is giving a talk in this series on risk intelligence on exactly this later on. And so I can't remember when he is, but I really recommend it because he's done some lovely stuff on exactly this, on saying that what we want are people who are good at assessing odds. Not to tell us what's going to happen. Nobody can tell us what's going to happen. I just want to, what are the chances of what's going to happen, and to feel that those are reliable chances. So you can train people on this stuff, yeah. Okay, well, there's one more next to you, and then we'll, yeah. Oh yeah, no, that was nonsense. That was complete. That was a fix. But I think Darren Brown's great. I love his stuff. And the one I like best, which I often use in my thing, is when, did you see the one when he flipped 10 heads in a row? Did you see that one? Oh, it's a great one. He stood there and he said, I'm going to flip this coin 10 heads in a row. And he went flip, flip, flip. And on a continuous take, no fiddle, no camera tricks, unlike the lottery nonsense. So, and he flicked it 10 heads in a row, and they came up 10 heads in a row. And he did it, and he really did it, thank you very much. And then later on in the program, it turned out that he'd stood there for 9 hours flipping this damn coin. I mean, a real professional, because every time, and then they used that little bit of film when he finally did it, but every time he had to make it look like it was the first time he was doing it. So that is really professional. 9 hours he stood there flipping this damn coin before he did it. So which is a brilliant example of, and I love this in education, that you can't take what you see at face value. You have to think, what am I not seeing? Now, if you go onto YouTube and you'll see all these people hitting holes in one in golf, or kicking a basketball miles and it dropping through the net, you know that there's endless times when that didn't happen. And we have to always think that when someone tells us, wow, this happened, think, okay, what about all the times it didn't happen? When you read some story about a successful businessman who took all these risks and did all this stuff, you think, hang on, what about all the people who took all those risks and failed away into obscurity? You have to always think, what am I not hearing? And what is the denominator? Okay, well, I think. Yeah, we've got to finish. I think apparently we've got to finish. Right. Okay, thank you very much indeed.